This is segment 2. We're going to talk today about how a split happens, or how it appeared to me. There were 2 different ways that I saw how splitting of the psyche was done. One of them was by Allie's flashbacks. So I told you I saw the trauma and the abuse. In the first segment, we talked about the PTSD, and I told you how the trauma and the abuse happened. In the course of those flashbacks, there were times when there were near-death experiences that I witnessed, and there were also times when I was able to witness how they split her psyche and what happened and what came after that. The other way that I witnessed how splits happen was by triggers. One of the alters, the 12-year-old couple, a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old, were highly triggered with spiders, and we'll talk about that in just a second. If you are my age, I'm 56, 57, somewhere around there. I don't have time to do the math, but you remember records. We used to listen to records. And for the young kids, records are big CDs. But we used to play them on a record player, and you had to be so careful with them. You had to hold them on the edges to put them on the record player, because you didn't want to scratch the record, because if you did, when you put the needle down to play the record, invariably that needle would get stuck in that scratched groove, and then it would ruin the music, and you wouldn't be able to hear the song. It would just kind of click over and over and over and over in that same scratched groove. I kind of use that as a way to describe how they split the kids.
No cause, solar eclipse is no cause, solar eclipse is no cause, solar eclipse is no cause, solar eclipse.
When Allie came, she was in horrible shape, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the things that happened to her a lot was she was always in a fearful state, and I don't just mean she was a little bit anxious. I don't mean she got scared of things. I mean terrified, pure terror, to the point where her psyche would start to split. And I could see that. When you do the research and the history on the MK Ultra programming at the government level, they used a variety of means. They used mind-altering drugs to cause the splits. They used electric shock to cause the split.
He's not asleep.
What? Just keep mapping the tissue. Echo, what are you doing here?
She hurts.
She does. That's because it's her first time.
From those things, the goal was to elevate the heart rate. So they needed to get the heart rate up to like a certain amount for the split to happen. I believe they triggered fear to release the adrenaline. So that combination of fear and adrenaline could only go for so long before it would cause the psyche to split. When Allie came, her last handlers were Zach and Aaliyah, and they were a married couple. Zach was supposedly a doctor. Aaliyah was batshit crazy. I don't even know a kind way to explain that. She was likely programmed herself. She is the little kid in school that was stabbing animals and killing animals, and basically psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies, no remorse, no conscience, just evil to its core is the best way and the kindest way I can describe her. When she was trafficking Allie, she would take Allie with her. It was usually one of the younger alters, the 12 and 13-year-old or younger. She would take them to a farm that was out not too far from where they lived, and they would collect spiders. So that already started the fear in place with the kids. When they collected these spiders, they would go back to the house. She would rape Allie, strip them down, and she would put the spiders on her naked skin, would put a cup over the spider, just agitate the spider, and then put a cup over it and let the spider bite Allie numerous times. That triggered the heart rate to increase. That created a trigger so that anytime there was, she wanted to split her, anytime she needed to do whatever programming she was trying to do to Allie, she could just use a spider that released the adrenaline out of fear. And so it made it easy to split. So in the future, if she ever needed to split her and get her into that trancey state of fear and the adrenaline rushing, she could just use a spider. It didn't have to be like this big involved thing. She would just get a spider, and that was enough to trigger the kids. So when the kids came to live with me, they had been split so many times, and there's so many alters that their mind will just automatically go to that trance state. So in the situation with the spiders, it took years to essentially reverse engineer that programming trigger. So if there was a spider in our house, the kids would automatically go into that trancey state. They would automatically start having their heart rate elevate, the adrenaline would release, they would start to trance out and zone out almost instantly. It took years of me calming them down, getting the spider, picking the spider up, taking it outside, removing it from the situation, and calming them down. It took time and time and time and time again. Now the kids are able to be around a spider. It doesn't trigger them the way that it used to, but that was painstaking. It didn't just take one time. It didn't just take 20 times. It took hundreds of times. Invariably, the kids that were triggered with spiders would always be the one to find a spider. Like, if you could have a 24-hour day and have 2 seconds of a spider in the house or outside the house or wherever we were, invariably, whichever altar was triggered by spiders would be up at the same time that spider was. So there's just so many layers of the evil that was done. I don't even have words. It didn't always need to be a spider. It could be a piece of black fuzz. It could be a little piece of dust. It could be lint. It could be a hairball. It could be anything. As long as it triggered that response in them, they would already start to split. So that's where I started to learn that. The other situation was when they were having flashbacks. And we talked about flashbacks in segment 1. But in some of the flashbacks, I was able to witness where they had near-death experiences, where she would just be in the middle of a flashback and just go comatose. In some of these experiences, I could have been with her for 48 hours, not out of my sight, but she's having a flashback, and where they drugged her, she would be in a drugged state. She would be, sometimes the ab reactions would be so strong that she would reek of alcohol, even though she hadn't had alcohol. It's crazy. It's so hard to explain all the things that they've done to these kids. It's hard, like mind-boggling that anybody could think to do these type of things. But in the course of those flashbacks, there were also times that I was able to witness them splitting her, and that looked like her going into a trancey state, kind of zoning out, her heart rate racing, the adrenaline going. Each of the altars had a phrase that they use. If you've watched dollhouse, and I'll see if the editors can add a clip of that in here. When they wanted to wipe their memory, they had them repeat a certain phrase.
You ready for your treatment?
I think it's time.
So each of the alters has kind of a certain phrase that they repeat, and that kind of cues me into something's going on. They're triggered. They're about to split. So I can intervene and try to calm them down and try to get their focus back on track. But that's what was going on.
You ready for your treatment?
I think it's time.
Did you have a nice time?
I'm gonna go.
Dude, where's your friend?
It's time for her to go. I had to get to her carriage before it turned into a pumpkin.
What?
Stroke of midnight.
Midnight.
End of the ball.
Dude, it's like 5.
Hey, you think you could take me back to the party after my treatment?
I'll wait right here.
You're good people.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't go back. I mean, the last thing I want to be is clingy. But you know when you meet someone and, if I'm wrong, I'll know. I mean, Matt can't lie to save his life. If he gives me that look, I'll walk away. But I don't know, I think he feels it too. And I think I found something real.
I'm glad. This is gonna pinch a bit.
You have a nice time?
I'm gonna go.
I want you to have it.
You ready to be a sad second placer? No pressure. It's just an experiment.
How much fun can we have in 3 days?
Hello, Echo. How are you feeling?
Did I fall asleep?
For a little while,
Shall I go now?
if you like.
Everything go all right with the wipe?
Why don't you just ask Echo? Oh, that's right, because she can't remember. Of course it went all right. Imprint's gone. The new moon has made her virgin again. Is there some reason it shouldn't have? Something happened during the engagement?
I think she finally met the right guy.
Oh, you're so jaded. That's such a middle age. She had fun, right?
She thought so.
There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so, man friend. We gave 2 people the perfect weekend together. We're great humanitarians.
Who would spend their lives in jail if anyone ever found this place?
We're all so misunderstood. Which great humanitarians often are. Look at Echo. Not a care in the world. She's living the dream.
Whose dream?
Who's next?
You've just watched the clip from the TV show The Dollhouse, which is about MK Ultra programming. When she says, "Is it time for my treatment?" that is already automatically putting her mind back into that state where she's about to be split, where her mind is about to be wiped. That's what it looks like. That's what it looked like on my end. While the kids were in the middle of having flashbacks, they would repeat this phrase, so I knew they were about to be split. Their heart would start to race. They would start to be fearful. Sometimes they would convulse, a full body convulsion, like it was a seizure. They would say they felt floaty. Then there would be a few seconds of a gap. They would scream like they were dying in pain. To me, it looked like somebody was ripping their soul from their body. It was graphic. It was painful. I don't even know how else to describe that. It appeared to me as painful and as graphic as if somebody ripped your arm off your body. Like, it was just evil. I knew they were splitting the psyche. When we talk about MK Ultra, a lot of people don't understand the ins and outs of it. So we use those words like buzzwords, but you don't understand what survivors have gone through for those things to happen. After the convulsions, after the guttural screams, after that painful stuff, there would be a few seconds where it would be calm, and then this new alter would come up. They didn't recognize me. They were still in a trancey state. They would start repeating codes. They would start repeating phrases that I believe to be programming. They had a few second window of that, and then I believe from what I saw that they were coding and programming this new split. So if you think of the psyche, if you I'm here talking to you right now, if my psyche were to be split, me talking to you is going to go to the back burner for a moment. The new split part, which is basically a clean slate, they were imprinting codes, numbers, phrases onto this new part. It happened in a matter of 20 seconds to a minute, where they're repeating the same phrases and codes over and over. And then it seemed like this new part with the clean slate was put into the system somewhere. And when we talk about the internal system, I'll explain that to you. But I've said before, Allie has an internal system. It's like a 66-story apartment building on the inside, and there's 20 to 30 altars on each of those levels on the inside. So whatever they did with this new piece, this new part that they pulled apart out of her psyche, they put it somewhere so they could access it at a later time. It is at that point that I believe they layer in a demon to attach to that part of the altar, to attach to that new piece of the psyche. That's just what it appears to me, and that's the best way I know how to explain it to you. I did not see demons manifest at that time when those splits were happening. I've seen demons manifest a few times when essentially we kind of reversed engineered some of the trauma. A demon will manifest briefly, or seems like they kind of jump off of the system when they don't have a reason to stay there anymore. But when the initial splitting was happening, that's not what I witnessed. Allie and the kids have told me that they had a spirit guide that was put into the system that kind of controlled things. When we get into the technology and the demons and that part of the segments, we'll get into that a little bit deeper. So while all those things are happening, I'm kind of documenting things. If you work with children, if you take reports of sexual abuse or different types of things about children, you are taught to be very careful. You don't want to inject your opinion into the situation. You don't want to say things like, did your mom sock you in the face? Because you've already laid out the groundwork and you've already told what you think is happening or what you thought happened. Instead, you are to tell them what happened to you, when did it happen, who did it. You need to leave it as ambiguous as possible because you don't want to put your stuff onto the child. You want the child to tell you what happened from their perspective. So you ask when, why, who, what, where, and leave it at that. So when Allie would finally come to, I've already documented what I saw and what things appeared like to me. But she would tell me what happened to her, I would say, what happened? Where were you? When she hadn't come all the way out of her PTSD flashback, when the flashback had stopped, she was trying to acclimate where she was. There was sometimes a small window when I could ask, what is today? What's the date today? And invariably, she would give me a date in the past. She never once gave me a date of whatever the current date was. It was usually dates in the past, so I would document that. When she would pull out of those flashbacks, I could say, what happened? What did you see? Who did it? And she would tell me those things, and 100% of the time, they matched the things that I had already witnessed. So at this point, I've documented what I've witnessed in her flashbacks. I have waited till she was coherent and came to, and then she would tell me what happened. I would ask, what you were having a nightmare, what happened, and what was it about? And she would tell me those things, and those things would match up. Then on top of that, we had CPS reports. On top of that, she had told me that when she was in elementary school, she went to a school called Bonnie Ohl, O-E-H-L, I think is the spelling. It was an elementary school. She told me that she wore a heart monitor. In nowhere in her history did she have any heart issues or heart problems. Since I've had her, there's never been any heart issues or heart problems, so I don't know why she was wearing a heart monitor. She would tell me things like they would bring me into the office, into the health office, and they would make me take my clothes off, and they would check me, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not how the health office works. At no point in any school do the children take their clothes off. You get a Band-Aid, you get a call home, you get to lay on the little bed for a minute, but at no time should there be any undressing. But at this school, that's what was happening. This school happens to be within 2 miles. I think it's a mile, and 8/10 of a mile, almost 2 miles from Bonnie Ohl Elementary School to Patton State Hospital. She remembers being taken to Patton Hospital. She remembers having her heart monitor checked there. She remembers that they would play this game with her, and it's an old game. I think we're going to put a clip up of that as well, where you put your hand on the table and you spread your fingers out, and somebody kind of takes the knife and goes around your fingers and tries not to stab you. She says that they would do that there with her, and that they were trying to get her heart rate up. When it wouldn't go up enough, they would send her out to the playground that was at Patton State Hospital to play outside to try to get her heart rate up. So I'm gathering information from what I'm seeing, from what she's telling me, from what's going on. It was at this time that I learned that one of the family members had been a resident of Patton State Hospital on several occasions. So now we're creating this picture of what's going on. This isn't normal, just trauma, like, my parents were bad and they roughed me up a little bit. This isn't that. We're dealing with something else here. So all these things that I was seeing happen with Allie and the altars was indicative of programming. However, at that time, I wasn't aware of what MK Ultra programming was. So I was starting to just trying to research everything. I know a lot of you don't believe in God, but looking back, I can see God's hand in so many things. The fact that I was raised in church gave me an understanding of the spiritual aspect of things, which came into play a lot. I had a background in the medical field that gave me an understanding of things that I needed, because with the MK stuff, there's so many things that happen physically. From the convulsions to the blackouts to the tranciness to just the splitting, like there's so many things that I had to be prepared for, and I was, because I had a background in the medical field. Later in life, I got my master's in psychology, and that as well came into play. So with all these components that I had, it helped me to navigate. So my first reaction when she's having convulsions and having panic attacks was not, well, okay, she's got MK Ultra programming and she's got this. I went to the medical field and we ruled out everything in that arena. What are the convulsions? Is she having seizures? Do a brain scan. Does she have a tumor? We ruled all those things out first. Whenever you are dealing with survivors, always rule out the physical first. Rule all that out of the way. So when that's cleared out, now we can move on to the next thing, which was the psychological end of things, the programming end of things. So that was my approach to that. We were at the doctor forever. We ruled all those things out with the MK stuff, and we'll get into that when we get to the technology and the demonic and that segment. But they're able to control survivors with their body. They can trigger things. They can activate things. They can drop you where you stand. They can cause half of your body to be on fire, burning up, and the other half cold. They can cause pain in your body. They can trigger hives in your body. There's so many things that they can do that are physical. When a survivor goes to the hospital or is having issues, usually 9 times out of 10, the hospital can't find any legitimate cause for what's happening. So that starts to make the survivor be documented as crazy, as a hypochondriac, as whatever. So as we're going through these segments, please keep in mind how many layers and layers and layers of evil there is to the MK Ultra programming and to the satanic ritual abuse and to the DID and what was done. It is not just like one layer of evil. It's evil upon evil upon evil. At the beginning of this, we talked about the record player and how if you have your record player your record is scratched, that needle will fall into that groove and it won't be able to come out and play the song normally. That's kind of what it looks like when they're programming and using triggers for survivors. So when they get them triggered, so when that needle gets into that groove, that automatically starts to put a survivor into a trancey state where their mind is already going to the fact that they're going to be split. They're so conditioned and so trained. They've been split so many times. It's almost an automatic response. Like if I threw sand at you, your eyes are automatically going to blink to protect you from getting sand in your eye. It's almost like a reflex like that. I told you when I witnessed the splits happening and I saw that clean slate come up and start calling codes and start calling phrases over and over. It was imprinting like a fingerprint. So if you think of a whiteboard, you have a clean slate whiteboard, which is the new part of the psyche, and you start calling codes. That's essentially the same as a programmer putting their finger in an ink pad and putting their fingerprint on that white slate. And then they put it away somewhere so that they can access it later. They can create in that altar whatever they want. Think back to the video clip you saw of the dollhouse and what they were doing there. That's essentially what MK Ultra is doing. So when you start hearing those terms thrown around so loosely and attached to the people in Hollywood, the children survivors, you know, I don't know Brittany, I don't know Miley, I don't know a lot of these. I've never met them, but there's a lot of green flags that they throw. And by green flag, I mean there's similarities that I see because I've witnessed it with Allie. I've seen behaviors, I've seen the symbolism, I've seen this and I've seen that, and all those things are patterns to the things that I've seen with Allie. So when I say those things, that's what I mean by what I'm saying. So I can't give you 100%, oh, so-and-so is MK Ultra, but I'm telling you that I've seen a lot of patterns that raise a lot of green flags for me. In segment 3, we will address the MK internal system, what Allie's internal system looks like and how they built it and what they put into it. You will probably have your mind fried, like mine's been fried for the last 15 years of what they've done, creating these structures and systems and altars and things inside the psyche. it will rock you to your core. But then when you hear that, you're going to understand why we're in the fight we're in, why we're willing to risk whatever it takes, because none of this should ever happen.